Good evening. Welcome to Kenya News Update today. I'm your host, and tonight we're bringing you a 12-minute deep dive into a story that connects corporate governance, political influence, and public accountability. We begin in Kisumu, where a luxury hotel is at the center of a multi-million shilling rent dispute with a state agency. But as we'll uncover, the threads of this story lead all the way to the highest levels of Kenyan politics and even touch on global health controversies. This is a story about money, power, and the systems meant to hold them in check. Let's begin. Our main story tonight concerns the Basin Development Authority, or LBDA, and a company called Fairways Hospitality Kisumu Limited. On Wednesday, March 11th, the LBDA issued a stunning public statement. It accused Fairways Hospitality of what it called manipulating the judicial system to avoid paying rent. And not just any rent. The authority claims the company owes a staggering 25,900,000 shillings in arrears for the premises it occupies. That's 25,900,000 shillings. The LBDA, a state corporation tasked with regional development, is essentially saying a private tenant is using legal tricks to avoid paying what it owes to the Kenyan public. The hotel in question is a prominent fixture on the Kisumu shoreline, a symbol of the city's economic aspirations. But behind the glossy facade, a bitter financial battle is raging. Let's break down the numbers because they tell a compelling story. The LBDA's claim is precise, 25,900,000 shillings, but our investigation suggests the financial relationship is even more complex. Sources indicate that the total contractual obligations between Fairways and the LBD may involve figures far exceeding the rent arrears. We're looking at potential total project values and other financial commitments that could reach into the hundreds of millions. For context, 25,900,000 shillings could fund the construction of several modern primary school classrooms or provide clean water infrastructure for an entire rural ward. This isn't petty cash, it's significant public money. The LBD statement was unusually blunt for a government agency, suggesting a level of frustration that has boiled over into the public domain. They didn't mince words, alleging the company has been forum shopping, a legal term for seeking a court that will give a favorable ruling, to delay and ultimately evade its financial responsibilities. Now, why does this company, Fairways Hospitality Kisumu Limited, sound familiar? Because it is linked to a significant political figure, Irungu Nyakera. Nyakera is the former Principal Secretary for Transport and currently the chairman of the board of directors at the Kenya Railways Corporation. He is a powerful individual with deep connections within the current administration. His association with a company accused of dodging 25,900,000 shillings in payments to a state agency immediately raises questions about conflict of interest and the influence of politically connected businessmen. Does this connection create an uneven playing field? Does it make it harder for a state corporation like the LBD to enforce its contracts? These are the questions being asked in Kisumu tonight. The LBDA's decision to go public could be seen as a brave move against a powerful entity or a sign of sheer desperation after behind-the-scenes efforts failed. To understand the potential scale, we need to look at the broader financial landscape of such projects. The LBD has been involved in several high-value developments in the region. While not directly part of this rent dispute, another major LBDA project, the Basin Mall, has been the subject of audit queries involving sums as high as 235 million shillings. This creates a pattern where large sums of public money are entangled in complex deals with private entities. The 25,900,000 shillings rent arrears might be just one visible symptom of a deeper issue in the management of public assets and partnerships. Are proper due diligence and enforcement mechanisms being followed when state agencies lease property to private companies, especially those with political links? The public has a right to know. This story in Kisumu intersects with another major political revelation that broke this week, taking us from the lakeside to State House. Former Attorney General Justin Muturi, in a detailed social media post, has revealed new details about the final hours of decision-making before the 2022 presidential election. According to Muturi, the choice of Rigathi Gachagua as William Ruto's running mate was sealed in a late-night conversation. Muturi claims he was in Mombasa when he received an urgent call from the presidential candidate, then William Ruto, summoning him to Nairobi for a meeting. The meeting, he says, took place just hours before the running mate announcement was due to be made to the nation and the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, the IEBC. This account provides a rare, intimate glimpse into the high stakes, last-minute negotiations that shape the country's political leadership. It underscores how pivotal decisions involving the second highest office in the land can hinge on a single conversation. Muturi's revelation is explosive because it adds a new layer to our understanding of the 2022 election process. He explicitly mentions the IEBC, the body responsible for overseeing the election's integrity. While Muturi does not allege any illegality in his account, the mention of secret meetings between a presidential candidate and IEBC officials before the election, a separate claim that has circulated, creates a complex backdrop. The combination of these narratives, a behind-the-scenes running mate selection and alleged pre-election meetings with the electoral body, feeds into ongoing public discourse about transparency and fairness in Kenya's political system. When the public sees a 25,900,000 shilling rent dispute involving a political insider and hears about late-night political kingmaking, it can erode trust in the system's even-handedness. Let's visualize the timeline of that critical period, based on Muturi's account. We have a series of compressed high-pressure events. First, the presidential candidate deliberates with his inner circle. Second, a key advisor, Muturi, is summoned from the coast. Third, a decisive meeting is held in the dead of night. Fourth, a final decision is communicated to the IEBC ahead of the legal deadline. This process, while perhaps politically pragmatic, occurs far from public view. Contrast this with the LBDA's very public, very messy dispute over 25,900,000 shillings. One story is about opaque political decision-making at the highest level. The other is about a transparent, but seemingly ineffective, attempt to reclaim public funds. Both speak to accountability or the perception thereof. Now, we widen our lens further, from national politics to a global health concern that surprisingly connects back to the current U.S. administration. Under President Donald Trump, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, or HHS, is led by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a longtime vaccine skeptic. This appointment sent shockwaves through the global public health community. Now, experts are sounding a dire alarm. They fear that an unethical vaccine trial conducted in Guinea-Bissau, in West Africa, might serve as a prototype for future studies promoted under Kennedy's HHS. The trial in question is centered on the work of a group of Danish researchers, whose conclusions about vaccine effects have been widely criticized by the mainstream scientific community. The fear is that the U.S., under its current health leadership, could legitimize and fund similar studies that exploit vulnerable populations in Africa under the guise of research, while advancing a skeptical agenda on life-saving immunizations. This is not just a theoretical concern. It touches on Kenya directly. Kenya has a robust vaccination program and is a regional leader in public health. The prospect of poorly designed or ethically dubious studies, potentially backed by a major global power like the U.S., could undermine decades of progress. It creates a dangerous precedent where the health of African populations could be compromised for ideological purposes. The financial stakes in this scenario are immeasurable, but they dwarf the 25,900,000 shilling rent dispute. They concern the health of millions. Yet the throughline is the same: the potential for powerful systems, be they corporate, political, or now ideological, to operate in ways that sideline proper oversight, ethics, and accountability. From a hotel in Kisumu to the halls of the US HHS, the question remains: who is watching the watchers? Let's bring these threads together. In Kisumu, a state agency is fighting to recover 25,900,000 shillings from a politically connected firm. In Nairobi's political memory, a former AG reveals how the deputy presidency was decided in a late-night talk. And globally, health experts warn of unethical medical prototypes that could emanate from a shift in U.S. policy. These stories are not isolated. They are facets of a larger narrative about governance in the 21st century. They ask how public institutions maintain their authority and integrity when facing well-resourced, well-connected counterparts. The LBDA's public statement is a tactic of last resort, a move to shine a public light on a dispute it feels it cannot win in the shadows. Its effectiveness remains to be seen. What are the potential resolutions to the Kisumu standoff? The LBDA could pursue a more aggressive legal strategy to attach the hotel's assets. The government could initiate a broader audit of all LBDA contracts with private entities. Parliament could summon the leadership of both the LBDA and Fairways Hospitality to explain the arrears and the alleged judicial manipulation. Or, as often happens, the dispute could disappear from headlines after a quiet, undisclosed settlement. The public, however, deserves a clear answer. They deserve to know if 25,900,000 shillings of their AQT has been recovered and what mechanisms will prevent a repeat. The same public deserves clarity on the processes that select their leaders and the safeguards that protect their health from misguided foreign experiments. In conclusion, the 25,900,000 shilling rent arrears at the Ki Sumu Hotel is more than a local business dispute. It is a litmus test for institutional strength. It occurs in an ecosystem where political connections are valuable currency, where high office appointments can be decided in secretive meetings, and where global powers can shift policies that risk the well-being of vulnerable populations. The response to this case will signal whether Kenya's systems of accountability are robust enough to function independently of the influence and power of the individuals involved. It's a test for the Law K Ba Sin Development Authority, for the judiciary, and for the court of public opinion. The amount is 25,900,000 shillings. The principle at stake, however, is priceless. For Kenya News Update Today, I'm your host. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to Kenya News Update Today for more in-depth reporting.